really, man, we're live, dude. That really creeps up on me fast. I wish they gave you like a little 1, 2, 3, episode 34 of This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
Hey, and I'm Dan.
I don't know why Dan's dressed in a fucking dress shirt, man. What are you doing?
It's an honor of Conor McGregor.
Oh my god, dude. He did it. He did it. Everybody doubted him again.
It's an honor of Conor McGregor.
He fucking clowned him.
Yeah, okay, Conor McGregor lost to Nate Diaz once. You know what? He came back, and I still think he beat Nate Diaz. I think it was a 3-2. I think it was the right call. Nate Diaz put in a good fight. But they still fought at 170 pounds.
Yeah.
So Conor McGregor bumped up a lot. Nate Diaz comes down to 155 and fights at lightweight. I think he would get destroyed just like Eddie did. Eddie was a no shit legit fighter. I mean, he was WEC lightweight champion. Probably would have been in the UFC much sooner if it wasn't for some of the contract stuff that had gone on.
Mm-hmm. Got tooled.
Destroyed him.
Oh, man. I listened to Eddie Alvarez on Chael Sonnen's podcast a little bit yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you heard it, man, but to summarize for our viewers, essentially what he said was, I had a great plan until I got punched in the face, and then I just was trying to survive.
Well,
Which, real quick, if you remember right, is exactly what happened to Ronda Rousey. That's exactly what happened to her. She didn't expect to get caught by somebody that has a little bit of power, like Holly Holm, and she got hit. And like Mike Tyson famously said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. And one of the other things that Eddie said was, I didn't realize how fast he was.
Dude, that 4 or 5 punch combo he hit him with as he was falling down, shut the fuck up.
It was just – and then – again, just the straight pimping. I mean, I don't really buy into the whole PETA stuff and things like that. But I'd have come out there with that white mink coat again.
See, and it flies over everybody's head, man. That's exactly how I think. Was it Frazier was dressed for Ali Frazier? Yeah, I mean, dude, look at a photo. It's the exact fucking outfit. No different than, remember when he dressed up like El Chapo? And he took the photo with him shaking hands. And it was just like El Chapo and Sean Penn, that goof.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Conor McGregor takes sports science to a whole new level.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
He got all of these trainers looking to be able to get him to a point to be fighting at his peak performance, and how is he going to do that?
Yeah, well, and it reminds me, man, I was going to bring this up too, and there's actually some good segues in here. Let's see where this goes. So I had some students ask me on Tuesday. I forgot what day it is, man, because I've been traveling this week. How did you get as good as you are? How do you develop skills, so forth and so on? And I think when people ask that, and we see that a lot on Twitter, and we have some friends like Leslie that answers those questions, or Adrian, Iron Geek and Hacks for Pancakes, right? And they take their time, they write these responses out and stuff, and I read them, and it's not that they're bad, but they're one way to answer that question, which is, develop this skill, then you develop this skill, and then you look at which career path you want, you develop this skill, and so forth and so on. And it's a very regimented, linear way to look at it. Where for me, I don't know how you were, but I suspect we were close to the same idea. I never really set out to know anything. I just did stuff that was interesting to me. But I did it like 16 hours a day, every day for years, because it was fun, and I liked kicking ass. So it was never a matter of, I have this plan of, I'm going to learn this and learn this and learn this, and I'm going to end up in this place, I'm going to do this thing. It was more of just being passionate and developing, and I think the most important part, which is what McGregor has, on top of skill, clearly he's skilled, but what he has that other people don't is an unwavering sense of self-confidence. Unwavering. I mean, you cannot convince that guy that he's anything but the best of all time.
Mm-hmm. There's a big part of that. For me, it was any challenge that other people said couldn't be done. No, you're not going to be able to do that. No, you're not going to be able to destroy the entire data center at XM Radio 2 months before launch because the people who originally did it designed it poorly because they would never be able to meet their service level agreements. You'll never be able to do that in time. Oh, watch me. I worked 50 plus consecutive hours many times, had the vice president of IT pulling cable. I had the whole thing planned out that we would have everything done 2 weeks before launch. We're talking about something that had never been done with satellite radio at the time in 2001. And I'm saying your data center, the way you've got this designed is horrible. Had to convince all of these people to spend a lot of money at the last minute where you have to be first to launch. First to market is the one that typically wins. Yeah. Uber, XM Radio. I mean, people could say stuff about XM Sirius. That merger occurred because of FCC licensing. So anytime there was a challenge, what's his name? Richard Branson from Virgin Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
His motto is if someone offers you an opportunity and you don't think you're qualified for it, take it because you'll learn it.
Yeah, and
that's what I did.
And in fact, I mean, I know we gave the same advice to doctoral students when we're mentoring them for their research. I really don't like working with people that pick topics they know, or God forbid, shit they work on. It's way more interesting and more fun to pick something you don't know dick about. I mean, because you're going to be an expert by the time you're done. And it allows you to approach it, I think, with a child's mind, to quote Zen Buddhism, right? So that you don't have any baggage or preconceptions or biases, and you just are open-minded and you find the way forward. I don't know, man. I like that response more. I think it's more meaningful than do this, do that. I think they're both part. I think you need both at some point. But, man, I've just always kind of done it. I've just kind of always, yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's more came down to this. I know there's certain things that I tried that I just didn't like and I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be some server jockey, work with databases. That shit bores me. And I do get bored pretty easily with things. It's like, hey, I've done it, move on to the next thing. But I always wanted the challenge. I don't want to go and do things that I've already done before.
Yeah.
Everything from, I went from, and I wasn't in charge of everything on when I was doing stuff in the government. I had projects, in charge of larger project after larger project after larger project. And then when I got out of that small startup niche, a larger startup, okay, now I want to see if I can repeat that in larger environments where perhaps the population isn't, in terms of the employment population, isn't as great. Can I repeat success in the same manner on a larger scale? In a lot of ways, this is what we're seeing Conor McGregor do. It doesn't matter. He's like, it's funny. Tyrone Woodley will say, pack a lunch.
Dude, you might find out.
Yeah. You can't, you should worry about your own fight. But I mean, it was just funny. It wouldn't surprise me after that weigh-in, if Conor McGregor threw down right there.
Well, and what's interesting, man, is now you have somebody that's fully empowered. I mean, so not only as management did you permit it, so now you promote it. Now he has 2 belts, and you haven't taken one yet. You threatened. You said you were going to, and you didn't. That's dangerous.
No way.
What are you going to do? I mean, which one do you take?
What I would like to do, I would if it was me in the UFC, I would just say, all right, I'm going to let someone else fight for the interim lightweight and keep having these interim ones, but I would never give Jose Aldo another fight.
Well, Conor said it best. What are you going to do? Give the guy the belt that I knocked out in 13 seconds? Good job with that division. Yeah. And he has a great point. So now you've permitted this guy to run amok, right? And he gets tempted to take a third one? You don't think for a second he won't try it? Of course he will. Of course he will, because he really believes he could do it.
I believe he does believe he could do it. But we're talking about giving up 60 pounds.
He doesn't give a fuck. He clearly doesn't care.
I know he doesn't, but realistically, like Nate Diaz walks around probably at around 175, 180.
Who, Nate Diaz?
Yeah.
Dude, like 200. He weighed like 190 in that. He weighed 190 in their last fight.
190?
After weigh-ins, man.
Afterwards.
Yes, after the day of the fight, he was. Rumor is, and I mean, multiple people have said this, that he was 190. Conor weighed 168.
Yeah, well, soaking wet.
Yeah. Well, look, and I'm not saying I'm not saying he could win. What I'm saying is he would do it because he understands the fucking payday.
Oh yeah, but I think he could survive a fight with Woodley. I don't think he can knock him out. I think if he boxed him, straight boxing, and he's got good takedown defense. I think people really underestimate his takedown defense.
Yeah. Yeah, they sleep on it because you don't see it that often because dudes get caught with that counter left coming in and good night. Or the 3 or 4 shots that are coming after it. But you know what's interesting, man? And we see this with sometimes high-level people, and Conor certainly has this blueprint where you know exactly, at least on paper, what's going to happen is you're going to get lulled into stepping forward, and he's going to step back. Eddie Alvarez even called it. He said, we've studied what they called a rock back, which is that step in and step out, and as you're stepping out, the person comes in and you just counter them, right? Perfect. So you know what the game plan is. You know who else just did that recently and won? Donald Trump. Donald Trump wrote a book. Donald Trump, remember this, wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, right? Yeah. And if you go back and look at that, just look at the table of contents and look at the outline. It's exactly what he did in his campaign. It's exactly what he did.
Yep, get people off balance. Yeah.
Any press is good press. He didn't give a shit. He said outrageous shit so people said his name. And he made his opponent act first, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole aspect of anything in martial arts, that the reaction is the one that people wind up remembering. And I find it kind of funny because we've said on this show, and people can go back. I voted libertarian. I voted for Gary Johnson.
Yep, me too.
I couldn't, in good fit conscience, vote for Hillary because of the things that I truly believe, having done the amount of time I've done in government, that what she did was really not that much different than what Edward Snowden did in terms of taking classified data. It falls under the same law. Now, there's other things that Snowden did in terms of the legal aspect, but the big difference, Hillary Clinton, Yale Law School, prominent law firm, First Lady of the United States, Senator, Secretary of State. If anyone should know how to handle classified data, it's her.
For a second, because this kind of ties into another thing I wanted to talk about, which was NSA bulk data collection. Because, of course, as part of the Trump president-elect shenanigans and all the social justice outcry and salt, I mean, mounds of salt, dude. Mounds. You could form planets out of it. Is this notion that, like, the last 50 years...
He wanted about 1,000 years, by the way.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
Read this up from Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah.
1,000 years.
Yeah.
This timeline.
You're
right.
Come on, dude. He's a physicist. What the fuck does he know about? Anyway, dude, what was I saying? Oh, so the idea is that, as soon as Trump becomes president and he can do anything, I don't know how the president magically does any of this shit anyway, as a office, right? Because the checks and balances we have, that there's going to be a magical repeal of the last 50 years of progressive legislature. But anyway, so here's the thing, man. So I'm going to take an objective view of this. Whether you agree with it or not, I think you can recognize that there's a portion of the population that supports Edward Snowden because he's some type of freedom fighter, Che Guevara character in their eyes. I'm not saying I agree personally, but clearly a portion of the population thinks that he did a good thing for culture, right? I struggle to understand how anybody rationalizes what Hillary Clinton did, because she didn't do it to, like, inform the public that they were being spied on. She didn't do it, this email server, let alone all the other bullshit, right? But just the email server. She didn't do that to try and affect some ethical position. right? I mean, she did it out of laziness and well, I mean, probably some nefarious shit, trying to keep shit off of approved, authorized systems, right? So I don't
Yeah, because it no longer becomes aspect of part of FOIA.
say that again.
So that email server was not subject to FOIA.
Yes, right,
Freedom
right,
of
yes,
request.
right,
That's a big thing doing it to keep it out of the eyes of those that would be like offices of inspector generals, which is a huge part of the checks and balances inside of the government.
right, exactly.
That server was not subject to any type of inspection.
Right, and it certainly had no information assurance review. So, but right? Does what I'm saying make sense? I mean, people can rationalize what Snowden did. Whether we do as individuals or not is immaterial, but we recognize people do, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
clearly, some people do. I don't know how anybody rationalizes that, and still people voted for her, and yet all this salt is about Trump. And what has Trump really done? I mean, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not a Trump apologist. I didn't vote for him.
Either.
But what has he really done to warrant people? I don't understand. And Marcia and I get into this because she didn't vote for Trump either, and she's pretty displeased. And she'll say things like, "Well, he's a racist," and I'll be like, "Well, I mean, what has he said that's racist? He didn't say I hate black people. I mean, that's a racist statement. He didn't say all Mexicans are dumb." Right? I mean, he said he wanted to build a wall. Well, that's outrageous. It's irrational. It's a little xenophobic, but I don't think it's racist. What do you think?
I'm not. I don't view them myself as being a racist because I think I hate everyone equally. But this is a thing where it's really, I think, is a very really slippery slope, because some of the things that Trump has said is probably certainly, we could all agree it probably shouldn't have said those things. But I want to know anyone, and I don't know anyone that has not made some type of off-color joke, whether that's based on something that has to do with race, sex, something being off-color. So I don't know that he is any different than many of us that are out there. He just happens to have a lot of fucking money.
Well, and that's the key, man. And that was the massive disconnect between mainstream media's narrative that they were trying to sell us and what people actually felt. Clearly, most people actually think that way. And that, I remember Dan Manson. You met him, right?
Yeah.
We had talked the last couple quarters ago on campus about why is Trump popular? And that the whole time the media is trying to figure it out. What's obvious? I mean, the obviousness of the truth is right in front of you. Yes, most people think that way. You can like it or not. You can say I don't think that way, and you're a sample of one. And maybe you and I don't. So now there's two of us. Okay, but clearly enough people think that way that the guy's going to be president.
Well, this is the other part. All these people getting upset, and I'll tell you, I'm more upset that of the lack of the people that still turned out to vote.
Yeah.
So you want to be upset that someone is president on either side. You should be going and asking your peers, did you vote?
Right.
Why didn't you vote? Because we only had something like, what was it, 58% voter turnout?
I don't know. I've had the impression that overall it was more, but like millennials didn't vote at all.
It's still, the last thing I wrote was basically we're talking about only 30% of the country voted for Trump in terms of total population.
Right.
30%. That means 31% in total population voted for Hillary. That means there's almost 40% of the people didn't even turn out to vote.
Yeah. Which I mean, do the math real quick, man. What is that? That's over 100 million people didn't vote. I mean, well over 100 million didn't vote, dude. What? I don't understand. Well, I mean, that's a failure of understanding civic duty. I think you and I as libertarians or more libertarian leaning people probably feel the same way that voting and participating in government is a civic duty and obligation as a citizen. It's our duty to do that.
It is, and I mean, I'm upset when I find out people didn't vote. I don't care who you voted for. I really don't. I mean, I'm not, I didn't vote for President Obama either time. I just didn't. But you know what? I don't think President Obama did a horrible job.
Well, I mean, how do you? So there's no clear criteria on how do you did Bush do horrible? And if he did, and if he did, based on what criteria? And are you applying that same criteria to Clinton, to Bush first, Reagan, and right? So I've never bought into that bullshit of did this person do well or not. There's so many factors you can't. I don't think you can isolate it down to a president. I mean, the thing with Trump, and I don't know if maybe under or subconsciously this is what people are reacting to is, dude, the entire fucking government is Republican.
Well, but see, when President Obama became president, the entire government was Democrat.
Yeah. Well, right. It was the Supreme Court liberal leaning then? I don't remember.
You could say so.
I thought so.
A lot of them were still appointed by Clinton, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Very many appointees. But this is how I view a president. They have an agenda. How much of their agenda were they able to get passed? Because they still have to play politics.
Oh yeah.
They don't get to create law. No. They have to get Congress to now. They can do the executive orders, but executive orders can be undone just as easily. Law cannot.
No.
It's very difficult to get the law to change in this case. So, do I agree with everything that President Obama did? No. But I think at least from his presidency, and we'll find out what really happens here relatively soon, there are some major components to Obamacare that I think should remain. The aspect of healthcare saying a pre-existing condition prevents you from getting healthcare, it's a pretty major component. And President-elect Trump has said he's going to keep that provision. Whatever comes next, that provision is staying.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big provision.
Well, and in fact, man, if you read like the first 100 days, all those bulleted points, I read it. I'm like, this stuff's pretty fucking rational. I mean, it's actually pretty like old school Republican, or what now we might call more moderate or libertarian. It's small government, which I think is the classic conservative approach. Small government, limited oversight, empower the individual people and local governments to be sovereign.
Yeah. Now, this is what I think is great. I honestly don't like his choice for chief of strategy, not because of some of the other things out there. I just don't think it was the right move. But I mean, he's considering Thiel in his cabinet. So people that say he's against the LGBT community, isn't Peter Thiel, homosexual?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, because Gawker outed him, which is why he funded Hogan to sink him.
You can't say that anymore. Now he's looking at a strong candidate to become Secretary of State is the Mormon guy who ran for president last time against Obama.
Yeah.
Oh, crap, what's his name?
Dude, they all look the same to me.
Guy from Massachusetts. He was the governor of Massachusetts. That's racist.
Yeah, I know, man.
You're
well, yeah, I mean, and here's what I don't understand, and I don't. I've said this before, man. I distinctly remember Reagan getting shot. I remember watching that on TV as a little kid. I don't know that I remember him campaigning and being elected. I don't know that I remember that, but I definitely remember Bush, Clinton. What?
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. Yes, you got it. I remember all those all those campaigns since Reagan. Dude, I never. And of course, social media didn't exist then like it does now.
Right.
I don't recall the backlash. And look, man, I support anybody's right to protest. I do. And I think that's an obligation as a citizenry. But dude, you're blocking freeways. You're holding up ambulances.
Protesting and getting it done correctly.
Well, so yeah, right.
There's permits. The reason for the permits is to make sure emergency personnel can still be able to get to the things they need to be able to get to. Critical infrastructure is not blocked.
Right.
These were illegal protests.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah, they were illegal assemblies. I totally agree, man. And you're impinging on another citizen's right to progress. That's not cool. But what people are protesting against doesn't make sense to me. You're what are you pointing at, man? What was that?
This segment is brought to you by Monster.
Come on, Monster. Cough up some cash for this life in tech, son.
We don't watch a couple $100. It'll be fine.
Yeah, just pay for hosting. Anyway, man.
Yeah.
people, and this is what I don't understand about social justice warriors. They caused this. If you don't like Trump, you have to step back and be like, well, I caused it. You can't sit here and accuse people and ruin their lives because of your accusations of being racist, of being bigoted, of being overprivileged, and think that there's not going to be a backlash. And this is the backlash. It really is, man.
What's great about all this. All the places where they're protesting and causing this havoc are in the states that voted for Clinton.
Yes. Like here, man, they blocked the 101 freeway into LA. That's a major freeway, dude. That's no joke. And this state is overwhelmingly liberal.
I think what this election really proved is that America in general, on the coasts, East Coast, West Coast, and you forgot Middle America.
Mm-hmm.
And when you forgot about Middle Earth in the Lord of the Rings, they rose up and they took down the evil in Lord of the Rings from Middle Earth. Bring out the Hobbit because it kind of looked like a dwarf. So.
Oh God, man! Snow White at Disneyland accused me of being grumpy.
So you can't forget about all of the states.
Right.
We are a constitutional republic. This is not true straight democracy.
Did you almost slip right there and say Confederacy?
No. I was about ready to go down the path of we should have been a constitutional monarchy and make me king. But we're about the biggest problem. To me, the states have lost a lot of their rights. Mm-hmm. We've relied too heavily on the federal government. Politicians have become a full-time job and don't really know what their constituents need. And we're seeing that with Middle America. I mean, I honestly was not expecting there to be I thought Trump was going to win. I really honestly did think that he was going to win because of the aspect of hearing about the middle states. He campaigned heavily in the middle states. And this is, you go back and take a look at the elections. Almost all the time, the Republican states vote Republican. Hardly ever have they ever voted blue.
Yep.
When a Republican president has occurred, it's because the blue states flip-flopped and went red.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was what's funny because voting in Maryland does not hurt Maryland at all, which is the argument that I had with my dad. And I said, in my entire life, Maryland has only voted Republican one time. And it was in 1984 with Ronald Reagan when he won 49 states.
Yeah, I mean,
it was the biggest landslide in the history. He won 49 states. He lost Massachusetts to Dukakis.
Everybody universally loved Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. So, the people, I applaud those people that want to protest and want to question things. But there's a difference, I think, at this point. Don't be sour grapes. You say you want to be a part of the solution. Well, what are you doing to be a part of the solution? Because Congress matters. Your state and local matters more to your day-to-day life than the federal government. I've supported 2 different presidents. I was there helping, as seeing the transition from Bush to Obama. Well, nothing gets done in Washington.
No, and the thing that I find interesting, man, is the stuff that people are crying about is stuff that hasn't happened yet. People are already looking for problems. And that's just not a healthy outlook. It's not a healthy outlook.
Fear of what you believe is going to happen is much more detrimental than what actually does occur.
Right. Like I don't understand all this stuff about the LGBTQ whatever, right? I mean, I've never heard him say anything anti-gay. I've never heard him say anything anti-trans. And now maybe he did and I just missed it. But I see all this stuff, whether it's social media or in conversations of people claiming that all the rights are going to be revoked over the last 50 or 60 years. And what basis is there for that?
I love people that say that Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned.
Yeah, right. Good luck with that one.
So let's take, and this is the thing I learned when I was having to take law classes at GW. There's a lot of cases that make up Roe v. Wade. Now I remember someone saying, and this could be fact checked because I don't know the exact number, but I remember someone in that law class saying it was 24 Supreme Court decisions that wind up making up Roe v. Wade, which all this started like in like 1970. And almost every year from 1970 to somewhere in the 1990s, there were multiple things challenging Roe v. Wade, which has kept strengthening and strengthening it. The Supreme Court has never overturned a previous Supreme Court decision. It's considered settled law. So the things that the Supreme Court looks at in new things is what is different from what you're bringing, what was already settled. So let's say Trump goes and gets this whack job from Alabama, who's on the appellate court. And I do think he's a whack job with not just his opinions of Roe v. Wade, business, things like that. I think it's the worst possible choice that he can make. But say that person somehow got affirmed. It's Justice Marshall that decides what the Supreme Court is going to say. He's the Chief Justice. Right, it's Marshall, right? That's his name?
Thurgood Marshall?
No, sorry, no. The current Chief Justice, John, I thought it was Marshall. I could be wrong. Who's the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court right now?
When did it change? That was within Obama's, wasn't it?
Roberts. It's Roberts, John.
Roberts, right?
Yeah, Chief Justice John
Roberts.
Yeah. Yep, John Roberts. So sorry. So anyway, he's the one that decides what the Supreme Court should say because he's the Chief Justice. So let's take the most radical, and let's say it is 24 Supreme Court decisions. The Supreme Court only sees like what, 6, 8 cases a year,
something like that, man. I mean, it's under a dozen. Yeah.
Right. So I think all the Supreme Court is going to do during this next 4 years is listen to Roe v. Wade cases, challenges. No, it's not going to happen. And a lot of what, like Roberts came under the Bush administration, and he has not been Republican-like in a lot of the cases that he basically chooses and chooses to vote in.
Right.
The Supreme Court justices, you either have people that look at the spirit of the Constitution or what its practicality is today, and they don't tend to go along party lines once they're there. Because once they're there for life.
Yeah, that's a lifetime appointment. They're immune to it. For most purposes, they're immune to it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's not politicking that goes on. That doesn't mean there's no quid pro quo or whatever. But the simple fact of the matter is Trump isn't going to sit down in a magic chair and some solo raid boss manner suddenly revoke everything. It doesn't. I mean, it just flat out doesn't work that way. And even if it did go through the process, most likely, because I don't see an alternative outcome. It's never going to get to a point where it's going to be heard by the people, which is the Supreme Court, that would repeal stuff like that. I mean,
the chances are so slim. And Justice Scalia, before he passed away, said he believed that certain things, such as gay marriage, the Supreme Court shouldn't even be hearing about. And his reasoning was, he goes, hey, we've got these 9 people on the Supreme Court. We are either from the East Coast or the West Coast, and we all went to either Yale or Harvard. How can us 9 people who are, by all measures, considered the top 1%, how can we be deciding for the rest of the 99%? Each state should be determining whether or not they want to permit gay marriage or not.
Right.
It's a state right. When you get married, it says the state has empowerment. It doesn't say the federal government.
Exactly.
So some of these things should be state laws. And if you don't like North Carolina, Maryland, Indiana, Texas, wherever, then move.
Right. Or get involved in state government, which is much more proximal to you anyway. I mean,
right.
And on a much, much greater scale impacts your day-to-day life.
Yeah. So you don't like it? Don't tell me that, you can't move. If you want it bad enough, you can. And the state will then, at that point, because the state's revenue is through taxes.
Yes, exactly.
So if they keep losing taxes, they need to do things in order to attract people.
Yeah, because let's not lose track of the fact that a government, especially of this size, does operate somewhat like a free market economy, right? I mean, it's not immune to the same pressures.
And in my opinion, you know what? If you want to get married to someone, I don't care if you want to get married to same sex or not, doesn't bother me. And that's the libertarian viewpoint. It doesn't hurt anyone. Go ahead and do it.
No, if anything, it improves my life, because if you look at it just as a business, there's more people participating in that legal framework, which should lower my burden.
Mm-hmm. Right. So by all means, I think every state should allow it. It doesn't hurt anyone.
No.
No,
it doesn't materially impact anyone but the two people involved in it. And as long as they're consenting, who gives a shit?
Right. So, so that way anyone can say, oh, you're against it. No. As a matter of fact, I have, one of my closest friends, and I refer to him all the time as my gay friend, Jeffrey. He hates it when I call him that, because he's like, hey, there's more things interesting to me than being gay. But, I like to do it just to kind of, tease him a little bit. But that, and my other really good friend, her sister is, I've got a lot. And then I've got my pagan friend that I do the show with. I'm pretty, I got my friend circle well-rounded here.
Well, the simple fact of the matter is, man, and I'll close with this thought. And I put this on Twitter the other day, responding to somebody about they were saying some nonsense. The simple fact of the matter, in my opinion, is that the vast majority of people, and actually there's some science now that substantiate the root cause of a lot of, at least for millennials, their apathy is their over-socialization, which gives them a sense of hopelessness, like there's nothing for them to do because there's so many of them, right? My opinion has been and will continue to be for the foreseeable future that the people that cry the loudest are simply the people that are bored the most. And if we all woke up and focused more on kicking ass towards whatever our goals are, and if you need help finding your goals, you can tweet one of us and we'll be your well, at least I will. I'll be your personal shaman and help you find your potential as a human being. And if you focused on that, you wouldn't have time to worry about what President-elect might do. And let's be clear, that's not a probability, that's complete speculation. There's no basis to make these claims that any of this is going to happen. There's just not. It might, sure. But come on, man. Really? Why don't you just worry on kicking ass?
I agree. Trump's a businessman. And people can say, oh, he's had failed businesses. He didn't. The reason why he didn't is he was always playing with house money.
Right.
And he did no different than a lot of VC-backed companies do. And that is bet on futures.
Yeah.
And so he would go bankrupt because that's what the laws would do for his businesses while he pocketed money amongst other of his business partners, because that's what the law allowed.
Right.
Trump doesn't want to fail. I believe, and I truly believe, he wants to have a legacy for his kids and grandkids that are going to maintain in the political spotlight. And so he's going to want this presidency to be successful. So, in closing, I'll leave it like this, basically kind of very close, and steal some of your lines in terms of kicking ass, because if we only have 1,000 years to get off this planet, which is a much shorter timeline than what you originally intended. You said you thought we had billions. A couple million.
Billions. I said we had billions.
Yeah. So, Stephen Hawking says we've only got about 1,000 years max. That means we got a lot of ass kicking to do, because in his mind, which is not necessarily a bad thing, saying that the Earth's just going to run out of resources to be able to sustain the way we are. So if we don't figure out something else, like get out of the solar system, we're all screwed. So your timeline just got cut by almost 98%.
Well, to be fair, I always defined the maximum based on the sun exploding. If he's defining the floor at a millennia, okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Elon Musk.
Yeah. So with that, we do need to start doing things regardless of being 1,000 years, whatever. How about just in our generation? How are we going to do things to make life better? And I don't know what the next step is, but I know what I chose to do, which is come to a small town in middle America, is the skills that I have to help people that may not be able to necessarily help themselves.
Yeah.
Where I felt I could do the most good.
Well,
and I wish other people would.
It's interesting, man, because I think for episode 35, we should throw down and talk about climate, because some news came out yesterday. There's some scientific data that came out that show a drastic reduction in ice surface area, which is bad. That's really bad. If there's less ice, that means there's more cold water, which means we're going to get cooling, which means we're going to get an ice age. That's bad. Just so everybody understands, global warming doesn't make the planet hot. It makes it hot until the ice sheets melt, and then it fucking freezes. Everybody gets that fucked up. Anyway, man, if we really only have 1,000 years, we might have to say to ourselves, dude, we don't have time to fix the climate. We need to chuck that, and we need to focus on getting the fuck off this planet. Which means you got to make some concessions in the meantime. Like, what do you do with Shanghai that's 98% smog? What do you do with those people? I mean, there's a lot of fucking people there, and we need them to build the space arcs.
They're already trying to kill us, so.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, so maybe for 35 we'll talk about that, man.
I say that in jest.
Dude, if you don't understand that a lot of this is satire and sarcasm, you should probably unsubscribe. But anyway, man, that and dude, I want to talk about NSA bulk data collection at some point, like in a serious way. I saw the Snowden movie with what's that dickhead's name? He's a good actor, but anyway, the fictional story, not the documentary Citizen whatever. I don't know what the difference is, to be honest with you, because they're like shot for shot the same fucking movie, but
they're both fictional. It's only one-sided.
Well, okay. Okay, but it made me think of not whether I support Snowden or not, but it made me think about privacy and data collection and how that can be used. And a big hot topic right now, man, is de-identification of genomic data. And I think we're going to need that. I think we're going to need that genomic data over the next 1,000 years to get the fuck out of here. So maybe we'll talk about that too. If you guys have any opinion, tweet us, put a comment in this YouTube video and tell us what you would like for episode 35. It's kind of a historic moment, right? 35, it's a big one. And we'll do it. Oh, man. Dude, I think I'm available next Friday. I got to remember when I'm flying back, man. This past week I was in the DC area for business. And next week, man, I'm out of here. I'm on vacation. Later.
Yep.
Take care, everybody. That's it. Episode 34.
Done. All right.
Bye.
Next time. See y'all.